And welcome to Joe TV. This is Zach King, your host. Look who's back. One of the founders of the Lex and Terry Morning Radio Network. His name is on the sticker. The man, the myth. He's kind of a legend on the street, boys. The one and only Lex Staley. Lex, welcome back.
Zach, thank you so much. Always a pleasure, my friend. And I love talking this stuff. We've had conversations on the phone and so on and so forth. I know we got a big event coming up here in August, which I'm sure we'll talk about and all that stuff. But yeah, man, I am glad to be here. Even though I'm exhausted, you know, it's NCAA basketball time, so I'm not going to sleep much for the next 4 days.
Right. You and me both, your Gators and my Tigers both are kind of cardiac kids right now for sure.
Yeah, they played a great game in the SEC tournament. You know, that is, he totally got fouled at the end there, but yeah, it's still, he would have had to make 3 foul shots, you know, which probably wouldn't happen. So I'm good with it.
Right. But speaking of Florida, the big news, back where it all began, Jacksonville is back as an affiliate. How does it feel?
It feels amazing, but at the same time, it's a real source of irritation for me that we were even gone to begin with. It's like taking Howard Stern out of New York. We were Jacksonville's Howard Stern. We never lost one rating period. Once we established the show and we had our first #1 book, we never lost from that point on. Even when we went across the street and had to reestablish ourselves with iHeart, it took literally 3 months to go back to #1. So it's just our home, our place, and everybody did the right thing and put Planet back on, which Jacksonville should never be without a rock station, ever. And, you know, pretty much put the whole band back together. You know, Chumley is the program director, and, you know, so it's really exciting. It's home.
And speaking of home, something that I've noticed, and guys, this is what happens when a P1 gets a camera and a microphone and has a chance to interview Lex. Going back decades, there's been many different combinations of folks on the show, from Sam Kavaris to the Taint to Kim.
It's endless. It's an endless list. It's
right.
A lot of people. We were kind of laughing the other day how many people we've had work for us in, you know, 2.5 decades. So yeah, I think we found out that we're pretty good at taking whoever somebody is and making them fit in.
Now, this team, to me, and this is what I wanted to kind of pick your brain on, this group seems like more of a family to me, because you have Dee, you have Ian, you have Sarah, obviously you have Terry. What do you think about that? Because again, there are different skill sets of different folks on the show, but this one almost seems like what happens when your family sits down at a Thanksgiving dinner and kind of lets it rip.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I would take a bullet for any one of these people. And there are days where I'd like to put one in them. You know, it's, it is a family. That is the definition of family. Any family movie you've seen or anything, that's basically what it is everybody has their issues, their irritations, and they say horrible things to each other, but you know, you'll kill somebody else that says horrible things about them in front of you or what have you. It is a family, especially, and this is no, you know, disrespect to Christina at all. She just didn't have enough time to get fully vetted in as family, even though I miss her terribly. She's a wonderful person, and I would have her back in the family to resume her stepsister role. You know, I would love to have her and Sarah both, but Sarah's like my daughter, my other daughter. You know, she came to work for us at 20 years old, and she's awesome. I mean, she wears her heart on her sleeve. She has no shame about anything she's done. She just looks at it as, yeah, I did it. It doesn't define me as a person. And she is funny, witty, and her energy has really lifted the show, up to another plateau, which is great.
Now, over the years, the way that you can consume the show has changed drastically, from streaming on the website. Now the app, which has the stream of the show on repeat, you now have LT2 that has everyone's podcast and then some. Talk, if you would, about the changes to how folks are now consuming Lex and Terry.
It's funny. People still love to hear it on the radio, so we've had a lot of people who are listening on the app who love the app because in the breaks, they're hearing great music, and, the only commercials we sell on the app are to, pretty much head-to-head clients that we've known and so on and so forth, because it's such a difficult thing to do measurements. And, we as talent don't have great relationships with the ad agencies. There's somebody who does that for us. So, I really can't go to an ad agency and say, buy our stream, because, even though it has 20,000 people a day on it, it's still, that's nothing to them, when you're talking about some of these major podcasts and streams and so on and so forth. Our only goal with it was to make sure people that if we come off in a market or people from markets past can consume the show. And there's a lot of people that, they're in a market where it is on the radio and they still listen to it that way because, people are habitual. That's all they don't like change. It's so difficult to get people to change to something else. And so once you get them, you don't want to discourage them from listening that way, but I also want them to listen on the radio.
Right. And I think it's really dynamic that even though folks are becoming more digital, you guys keep adding affiliates.
Yes. I mean, radio has, to me, was on the brink of extinction when all that stuff went down in 2010, with Bain Capital buying iHeart, and, Westwood One and Cumulus were having their issues, because I don't even think they understood at the time what it was going to take to downsize, rearrange, still make their product great. I think they finally figured it out and are now upticking and uptrending and making their radio stations better. But, there was a 3 or 4 year black hole where, we decided we just want our listeners, and we want to make sure they are able to listen in any capacity, whether it's podcasting, the subscription podcast, or whether it's streaming, to the point where we took a financial hit for a couple years, right, just to make sure we kept them. Because, like I said, once they're gone, they still love you, but they just don't change what they're doing. They have kids, they have schedules, they have all this stuff, and it's an effort just to make them sit down on their phone and download one app and, hook it up with their Bluetooth in the car or their auxiliary cable or whatever. I mean, I've had that conversation with so many people. It's like, this is all you have to do. How hard is this? And it's always the same thing. It's like, yeah, I just have a lot of stuff on my mind that time of the morning, and which I get. I do. I mean, I could get lectured on this as well with TV consumption or what have you. As much of it as I watch, if it's a pain in the ass, I won't do it.
So if you are not, as an audience, familiar with the Lex and Terry Radio Network, there's news, there's sports, what happened the day before, but the comedy is a humongous part, along with being called the givers, relationship advice, what to do, how to do it, folks that need help when they call in. But as far as bits go, for decades and decades, from Ding Dong Ditch to Spread My Mom to gosh, what am I? What do God? Talk to a Star. I've got to put you on the spot. What is your favorite bit of all time?
Drunk Bitch Friday was my favorite bit of all time, and it was everybody else's too. a tremendous liability with sponsors and activist groups, and because you can do everything in the world on a bit like that, which we did. We had police officers there. We had EMT people there. We made sure their best friend or family member in the whole world was there to say no if we were pushing them too far to do something else, or if they were doing it on their own, like what became the 8:30 a.m. head rub on me. You could have some girl come in who had no interest in me whatsoever. By the time 2.5 hours went by and she had cocktails in her, all of a sudden I was irresistible. Let me grab your head. It's like, really? Okay. She'd be over there just falling over. And she's like, but I love you too, Terry. It was like a experiment happening in front of you of human behavior that was irresistible to the audience and to us, because, some of these girls were, professionals and as far as the way they conduct their life, educated, money making, and they would just come in and just let it loose, like it was almost needed. And people live vicariously through them. I can't tell you how many applications we had, people with 3 or 4 master's degrees going, I want to be the drunk bitch. I'm like, okay. And it just became, when you have like the head of Budweiser's daughter, coming after you, because in their mind, it's like, hey, you're using our product to do this to people. And I'm like, well, first off, they usually weren't choosing beer.
Right.
It was usually tequila or whiskey or, something that got them there in a hurry. They could drink whatever they want, but that's pretty much it. And at the same time, it was used as an opportunity at the time for them to look like they were advocating for safe and making sure, which they should do, but it got rid of the bit. It became just too much for salespeople and market managers and stuff like that. It just became more of a pain in the ass for them than what the ratings brought in it. And the ratings were, on those days were just absolutely crazy. I just love the bit so much because it was consistently there every Friday, but it was never the same.
No. If you've ever caught a best of, as these guys go on vacation, usually those bits are on a normal basis. So I would recommend, obviously, tune into the show, but when these guys get a much needed break, usually that bit along with the other ones are on there.
Yeah, for a while there, we weren't doing ourselves any favor. I think we had every bit we had bitch in the title, and it was by design. And it almost became a joke, It's like tomorrow we'll do spread my mom, bitch. Had nothing to do with it. It just cracked us up. We didn't really think of the ramifications, but it all goes hand in hand. It's like people always say, you used to have girls in the studio and naked girls and, it was awesome and all that. And it's like, well, yeah, but we were 35, not 55.
Right.
And probably about, seriously, 5 years into the show is in its zenith, just kicking ass everywhere. And we actually, one day sitting down, went, we have to start transforming away from this so we look our age and where we are in life and so on and so forth. So we became a more content-based show in a very slow fashion. You can hold on to certain things like Taint, who even in himself has, in a sophisticated way, I can't believe I'm using that in the same sentence, Taint, but he has come up with ways to make it relevant and cool and fit where he is in life and where we are in life. And it's something we think about a lot. And if you're a performer or an actor, that's something you got to think about too. You know, if you hit 35 years old as an actor and you're still trying to do, you know, the lead guy in some action movie, you know, as the number one when you're up against Zac Efron or somebody like that, you know, at some point you got to go, okay, I got to go for different roles. I got to do something that people believe, because I don't care how good of an actor you are, at some point some of them end up in roles they shouldn't have taken just because they took it. I can't think of any movies or TV shows right now, but I sit in front of my TV and go, oh dude, who talked you into that?
And, yeah, speaking of up and coming artists, 2 months ago, a BuzzFeed article came out that named you one of the 10 most influential people in music that you have to meet. A lot of that article really got into what you've done to help new and up and coming artists in the music industry, both as your time as a program director, your on-site dates, and obviously through the program. That marries a lot with what Talent Joe tries to do on our side through the Launch Cruise, as you mentioned before, launch.world coming in August for those of you who are watching, shameless plug. But what advice, like you gave 2 years ago on the program, what advice would you give anybody through networking, through touring, through contacts? What advice would you give those folks that really are looking to get on the program, get noticed, whether it's your music meeting, whether it's just getting out there and pressing palms? What advice would you give them?
Well, I love when they send their music and stuff like that. I do listen to it, and every once in a while you have an oh wow moment, you know, where you just say, how is this band or this act not doing better than it is? I mean, some of these people are in their low 30s, and I don't think it's too late. I really don't. You know, and you look at a guy like Chris Stapleton, you know, who's incredible. I mean, just absolutely incredible, you know, getting a late start, you know, and because he did what it took. He stayed in the biz. He shook hands. He did things he didn't want to do, probably, you know, getting signed and stuff like that. He comes off to me as somebody that really doesn't enjoy that aspect of it. But you know what? You better act like you enjoy it. And you can have your integrity, and it's like, that's not me. I don't do that type of thing. But what is you is you're mopping at the grocery store when you should be up there performing because 20 years ago it was too good for you. In this world today, you know, it even goes back to what we were talking about, you know, when you said you're putting your product anywhere you can. Well, you know, I used to get one paycheck. You know, now we get 7, 8, 9. You know, it all amounts to the same thing. But that's what you have to do to do it. You know, Jarrett, who's gonna, I do believe, still sign up for the cruise, right?
That's correct.
He is the shining example to me as a guy. Jarrett's the lead singer and songwriter for Bowling for Soup. He, you know, also does a lot of behind the scenes stuff with guys like Fountains of Wayne. You know, he's always got something going, and he has the same philosophy. And, you know, his manager said, hey, if you want to live like you're living now, you know, you may need to have 10 jobs that pay you $10,000 as opposed to thinking you're getting this for what your band does, because here's the news. It's not like that anymore. You really have to take your opportunity to take gigs and do stuff that fits you, that you enjoy. I mean, he does like voice work, Phineas and Ferb. He, you know, is a Chuck E. Cheese guy. Right. He co-writes and produces songs for acts that he manages and produces. You know, he's got like Not Your Girlfriends right now. These girls are teenagers and they're fabulous. And they took the opportunity to work with a guy like him because I don't know anybody that writes better power pop alternative songs than he does.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's plenty that make them as good. I don't think there's anybody better. I really don't. And I wish he would at some point reassert and do that awesome Blink 182 album. I know he's got in him, but he's happy where he's at. He's in his 40s. It doesn't matter. He looks like he could go for another couple decades because it is obvious he enjoys it. I mean, it comes through, and that's the number one thing. You must enjoy what you're doing because you're certainly not enjoying the money. You know, you're enjoying whatever you got to do to put food on the table. But I'll tell you, the best part of my day, every single day, is my job. I know, even if there's some irritations or whatever, I know that it's good. You know, that we are going to put a good product out there, and we're going to have fun. There's business stuff you got to do that's not so fun, but that's why they call it business.
Right.
And you know, if you enjoy what you do, it makes it a lot easier. So if you're a good performer, perform. You know, you're not too good for it. Go do it. Because the people you see succeed, you know, not everybody's Lady Gaga, where the talent is so enormous. It's, you know, people are knocking your doors down. But there's 9 other Lady Gagas out there that don't have her, you know, savvy and her, you know, natural ability to do the business and the performance part of it. That is everything. If you think your talent alone is going to get you where you want to go, I'm here to tell you, no. There is so much more you have to do. I mean, you have to think it 24/7.
So folks I'm sorry, Lex, go ahead. I apologize.
No, that's fine, Zach. I'm rambling on about this because I'm very, you know, just passionate about it. I really wish I would have had the light bulb go off earlier than it did with me, you know, in my late 20s. You know, I mean, I worked hard and, you know, tried to get where I wanted to on radio and stuff like that. But when I saw there were multi-levels of what you have to do to succeed, that's how all this happened. You know, I ran into somebody that was the same way, and we hired people that were the same way. And, you know, we got 5 people that work very hard and think every day about what we can do to be awesome tomorrow. And that's what you have to do.
So folks that are on talentjoe.com, folks that are watching this interview, because you are the most popular interview that we've ever had. We had a metric ton of viewers last time. You had the music meeting on your show. So folks that want to sign up for talentjoe.com on their profile, folks that want to sign up for the launch cruise, so launch.world for that one, and folks that are wanting to send their music into the music meeting, how do they send the music into you guys, and what advice would you give them when they send their songs, anything that they have to offer into the email, into the show for that music meeting?
I appreciate you asking that. We are going to do a music meeting here pretty soon. Use Lex at lexandterry.com. We used to use the show email, but that's just gone off the scale. We get, you know, we use that for so many things that, you know, ciphering through everything and finding it is, you know, it gets passed over. You know, somebody else goes on the show email and just, you know, delete something or whatever, it's gone forever. So with me, that does not happen. So I am going to change the email address to lex at lexandterry.com. And you can even use the givers at mac.com if you want to make sure I really see it and use both emails. But I, you know, probably have an opportunity in a music meeting to showcase about a dozen artists, and you'll get played for just a few seconds if it's not very good, but we'll tell you why it's not good, and we'll tell you what we think you need to do, from changing your approach or taking your production values a little more serious. Some guys and ladies are, you can hear that raw talent in there, and some of the songwriting is actually really good. They just don't have the resources where they live. Some of these places are like small towns in West Virginia or South Carolina, North Dakota, not exactly studio meccas, for an artist to go cut a decent demo and so on and so forth. But you know what? It's your life and it's what you want to do. So save your money, take a trip, go to a good studio in Memphis or Nashville or whatever's close by, Pittsburgh or what have you, and have your crap together, have your songs written, have an idea what your arrangements are going to be, what direction it is, because it's an expensive day to go cut a demo, or expensive couple of days, when you're talking about hotel rooms and travel and studio time, which if you're a greenhorn, some studio will abuse you and just charge you a rate that it's just ridiculous.
Right.
Them taking advantage of you. And there's plenty of good studios to cut a great demo in that you don't need all the bells and whistles, because most record companies or anybody that signs you, if you decide to go that route, they're probably going to redo your record anyway.
Right.
Very seldom, does somebody come along and just say, no, this is good as is. I think the only one I really know of was Prince. And he told them he wants to redo it now that he has the resources and all that. But
right.
From what I understand, his first project, they just wanted to, this is fine. Let's go. So, but, we're talking about one of the most talented people to walk the earth. So that's, I don't want to put ideas in people's heads that, they're not that, but at the same time, just make wise decisions. Don't categorize yourself, but don't let somebody else do it either. Really sit down and think what the next best move for you is, because it's everything. You can make a decision that ruins you or make one that escalates where you're going, faster than you would have normally. It's why relationships with artists don't do very well, because they're spending more time thinking about that than anything else. I've certainly been accused of it, so, and I have a divorce, on my pedigree already, sadly enough. And I certainly in my present relationship have issues with, terms like workaholic and you don't have time for anything else, stuff like that, all those things you want to dispute, but deep down, are true.
Right.
These are all things you got to think about. You really got to think about what you really want in life, because this is no game. If you're talented and you want it, you probably should let nothing get in your way, including a relationship, unless you have that extraordinary person that sees it like you or even sees it better than you. And boy, you find somebody like that, there's plenty of time after you succeed to smell the roses. You're 20 years old right now. I have this talk with my daughter all the time. It's like, if you want to do all these things you're telling me you want to do, then do them. That means no boyfriends. That means not spending money on stupid things. It's a plan. That's why they call them plans, because you got to make it, stick to it. And believe me, when you're 40 years old, even if it doesn't come true, I guarantee you'll probably have a good job and you'll probably be putting money in the bank and food on the table. But the important thing is, when you lay down at night, you don't regret. That's so huge. And unfortunately, 95% of us are going to do that.
Right.
but that 5%, that's what we watch the Grammys for, or the Oscars, if you talk to them all, you probably will hear a steady stream of ruined relationships and devastating things in their personal life that had to be put aside for them to get where they're going. And that doesn't mean they're bad people. It's like I work hard. I know Terry works hard, Dee, all of us work hard to do better for our loved ones, to give them things that they never had and you never had. I mean, that's really the fantasy, the secret goal of men and women who, are driven crazy with their passion for what they're doing, is to at least take it and reward the people that have backed you, love you. Your son or daughter that has issues of the 10 dance recitals or baseball games you've missed, so on and so forth. I mean, it's, I've missed some good things with Sam, but tried to be there for most of it.
Right.
There is balance. I don't want you, as a person to obsess so much where you just shut out everybody in your life, because you're going to find out later on what was more important, and that's sad. But there is a way to get on the page with people in your family and be very in an exact manner, tell them what you want to do and why you want to do it, and that you want them to be part of it, because that's what they want to hear. And that's what they should hear. You should want them to be part of your success. And believe me, they are. They're doing things for you that you would have to do otherwise, and sacrificing on their own. These are all things you need to think about if you're going to be truly successful in some sort of entertainment business.
So we've spoken about advice. We've spoken about Talent Joe. We've spoken about the cruise. Let's turn this around. How can our audience find you personally and all things regarding the Lex and Terry Show?
All right. Well, I mean, obviously you can find us on Twitter at Lex and Terry, on Facebook /official Lex and Terry, because we had so many Facebook pages in the beginning, and they're all sitting out there somewhere dormant. We don't know how to get rid of them. We don't know the passwords because the people that made them are long gone and they don't even remember them when you find them. So yeah, it's just official Lex and Terry on Facebook. At Lex and Terry on Instagram, and everybody else on the show has their own things too. So D is either Mr. BVNP or BVNP on all of his. Sarah B. Morgan is Sarah's, and she does great social media. If you want to see, if you're weak in that area, just watch how Sarah does it. She has gotten really good at it. And I mean, Sarah is so intriguing to me because she is across the board sexy, and she's not trying to be.
Right.
I mean, there's so many. I've watched the men that Sarah date, and every one of them like her for a different reason. Whether it's her sense of humor or her voluptuous body or her, carefree attitude, or I mean, and she knows it. I mean, she doesn't act like she knows it, but I'm pretty sure she thinks out everything she does on social media with getting the result she wants, and you can just see it. And that's what it's for. It's to express yourself and to show people a side that maybe they don't get to see otherwise. And she does it great. I mean, I am definitely a student of hers as far as the way she handles her social media. So, that's definitely how you reach us. You guys, if you want to get to Lex and Terry, you can go through Sarah and have a good time, and she'll lead you right to the mothership every time. She's great at that. Dee does great social media, puts a lot of work into it. comes at you many different ways. People really enjoy his approach to social media. Ian is a very eclectic and cool guy, so I like to follow him and look at what he does, because he has kind of an old school thing about him, as far as his interests go. So it's cool to see, a post from him that you just go, wow, I remember how cool that was. And, thanks, Ian. I got to see that. Terry and I, Terry's worked very diligently on his, and on his imaging. The problem with him is he has too many products. He gets an idea in his head and he wants to do it, and he does do it. Once again, he has the supportive wife that allows him to just, I'm going to do this, and voila, a new podcast is born. We give him a lot of crap for it because, they're never going to have mega followers, because he'll get bored and do another podcast, but the products are always good. The only thing I've seen him stick to is Lex and Terry. Other than that, he likes to, jump in and get involved on something. I don't even know how he sleeps at night. There's always something new going on and all that. He's got Gang of Two podcast with his wife right now, which seems to be escalating and doing very well. And he has used social media, and what he's learned to make that go quicker. And, then there's me. I'm probably the weakest social media on the show, because I don't lead a super interesting life. I just don't. I walk dogs, I pay bills, I watch TV, I play guitar, just for my own liking. I exercise. It's like, who wants to see social media of me doing any of these things, really? Because it's just, to me, posting to be posting, or to be in front. Every once in a while something hilarious or cool happens, or I'll see somebody with an ass crack in the grocery store and can't resist, in which case you get the pushback, well, I'm sure your ass looks good like that. I'm like, no, my ass is horrible, but I don't display it in the grocery store.
But you do give awesome shouts out on Cameo too. Yeah.
I guess it's not high on my priority list. I'm there for you if you need me, it's like I charge the lowest of everybody, because it's an area I don't see myself as super useful in, unless some guy's wife or some girl's husband is, I'm the person they're into on the show, so I'll make it special for them.
All right, and last question, since I'm from the South, do I personally have permission?
I would have never guessed.
Yeah. Well, I'm Sweet Home Alabama. Do I technically qualify to call in for Ian versus the South?
Oh, yeah. I think he actually lost his first battle out of 50 or 60 attempts over the years. And it's not to say these people weren't smart. They were it's just Ian is kind of like me, besides being educated in, regular education, which he definitely exceeds past me on that. But as far as useless trivia or some sort of thing you should know about American history or anything like that, he's a very worthy adversary. We've had some very good Southern people call up, and it just didn't work out. They make one mistake on something that's not even school related, about some actor or what have you, and that's how he gets them. But yeah, you can take him, Zach. You can do this.
Sweet. All right, so I will take that invitation. So don't be surprised if Zach from Alabama or Talent Joe Zach calls in. So.
And by the way, that's not a fixed bit. So you Southerners can call up anytime you want and say, I want a piece of Ian right now, South, the South versus Ian, and we'll do it. A lot of people think that we have like a fixed thing we're doing. You can call up for anything you want to participate in, and if it's a day where we're not loaded up and we're just going over other things, well, we'll do it right away. It's couples no comment, which is one of my favorite bits we've had over the years. It's fun to do, and it's fun to catch people in lies in their relationships, or it's usually harmless too. These are not super jealous people. If you're willing to call up and do that, your relationship's pretty solid. But it's always fun to catch somebody on something and have the other one go, "Really? I had no idea that you went out with Joe, my best friend, one time, and I didn't know about it." And sure, I believe you that you didn't have sex. Of course, honey. It's fun stuff, but we're completely accessible. The funny thing about cell phones is I thought we would have to hire 5 phone screeners. It's actually been the opposite, because everybody has cell phones now. There's very few landlines, and people don't want to be on hold for 20 minutes to do something, or even through a break, because they're running up data and things like that. But you can call the show and leave your number, and we'll call you back right before we're going to do it. That's a message that's kind of getting lost with people. Or they can email in a situation, and we'll say, okay, cool, we'll bring you on and talk about this. What's a good day for you, or what have you. It's just different now. But it's funny, the phones aren't near as active as they were with phone lines, and that's pretty much true for radio across the board. Which is so strange, because it's there, it's accessible at all times, but you're also texting, you're also doing social, you're also, doing a document or emails. I mean, so you can't give up that much time to hold. It's weird, and we've had to adjust to it. I know other people have too.
Well, Lex, as always, my friend, thank you very, very much for the time. We appreciate it. Obviously, you have an open invite whenever you want to come on the show. So do you want to say anything in closing?
Yeah, this is always fun. I mean, I truly, truly want to help people experience what I've gotten to experience, because I tripped and fell into this. I never had any aspirations of doing radio. I took a sales job in the summer at a little radio station. It was a second job besides a grocery store I was working at. And I actually sold a client one Friday afternoon, went back to the station. The afternoon guy had a hot date that night, and he didn't have time to cut the commercial. So I spent literally the entire night trying to sound like the guys on the radio sounded, and cut a commercial for Waltz Auto Parts in Jacksonville. They were having a 48-hour sell all type of thing. So it had to get done right then and there and get on the radio. And I got yelled at for it by the program director. He's like, who do you think you are? And I'm like, I'm a guy that needs money. So nobody was here to cut this for me. It's like, well, you should have called me. I'm like, yeah, like you would have driven 30 miles to cut this commercial. Shut up. Sometimes you got to just roll the dice. And then when he heard the commercial, he goes, you're not too bad at this. You ever thought about doing it? And I said, not once have I thought about doing this. And he said, well, you should give it a try. And he literally had to sell me on it. That's how stupid I am. 4 or 5 times. And then finally I did it. And the first time I cracked a mic and felt there were people out there, that was it. So that's why I like doing this, because don't let something hit you across the head and not recognize what just happened to you like I did. I got lucky, and the guy that hired me was more persistent than I was. But you know, God, I've never regretted it. It literally was the best day of my life, looking back. It should have never happened. God knows what I'd be doing now.
All right, Lex. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate the time. Guys, that's it. Round 2 with Lex Staley. Visit your affiliate. Listen into the radio. Download the Lex and Terry app. Go to all social media belonging to Lex and Terry and Lex Staley. So for Lex Staley, this is Zach King with Joe TV saying, we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.